Hi everyone, thanks a lot for coming. Okay, so I'm going to tell you a bit about how these sacred stones came to be. So last year I did a artist residency in Greece, and I was making all these little pieces like these. This was one I actually made in Greece, this little brown one here. I was just playing around for the first week with clay, making little shapes. I was in the mountains, and the mountains were really inspiring me, all the shapes and the cragginess and everything and the wildness. And so I was kind of playing around and just making these. And then the next again week, we went on that was an organized excursion to a Minoan I can never say this word, archaeological site. And so we were getting a tour of that, and there's evidence of a pottery there, and it's ancient times. I can never remember the date, so it's Minoan times. Someone else might know the actual years, but don't ask me that. So all these ancient shards of pottery, and then we got shown this sacred stone, and it was about this kind of size. It was kind of big and chunky, and I realized that when I saw that, it was so similar to this particular one, actually, the shape of it. And so I just felt like, oh, this is a sign. I need to carry on making these. I feel like I'm kind of going in the right direction here. So when I got back to Houston after being in Greece for a couple of weeks, I started making all of this work. So this is a kind of year's work that's in here in front of you all. So I also realized that while I've been making this work, that I have had a connection to rocks for years and years and years. I'm completely obsessed with this big volcanic rock that's off the east coast of Scotland. And every time I go from London to Edinburgh on the train, I have to get a glimpse of it. And when I'm in Edinburgh, I have to go and see it. And it's this it's more like an island, really, but it's basically a great shape. I'm obsessed by it, and I have been since like my early 20s. And then also in my family, I realized that I have a rock named after me. My sister has a rock named after her. No one else in Scotland knows anything about this. It's just a family thing, really. So I feel like this coming about of this work is not really that surprising, considering my going to Greece, seeing the sacred stone, and then all my kind of history of being very kind of into shapes and textures and everything. So when I make the pieces, they're all made from clay. And so I get coils of clay. I don't know if anyone's done any ceramics here, but basically it's like a big snake rolling out, and then I build up the pieces. And usually that's a fairly quick process, and then I'll let them dry, and then I'll kind of smooth them all down. And then when it comes to the glazes, I'm really into and interested in different textures and just creating different surfaces. I do experiment a lot with making glazes. Mostly I'll get recipes. It's like using a recipe for food, but it's all sorts of different white powders that you measure out. And so I get my recipes online or from books. But then I do a lot of tweaking and a lot of experimenting with making them. And it drives me crazy, but I'm obsessed by it and I love doing it. And sometimes they work out really, really well. Other times they're not so good. But so these little pieces here are mostly, even like the plain ones here, I made those in Greece, and I haven't glazed them, but a lot of the other ones are more like glaze tests. So I can kind of test a glaze on there on a smaller piece. But I've realized while I've been making the larger pieces that the glazes don't always do the same thing on a larger piece as they do on a small piece. So sometimes when I think, oh yeah, I've got it, this is the glaze that I'm really happy about, it doesn't turn out nearly so well on the actual piece. But sometimes it turns out great and I'm super happy with them. So it's a real sort of, like, I love the magic of putting things into a kiln, and they look very different when you put them in, and then when you open the kiln there's all shiny and blobby and all sorts of stuff. So that's, I'm kind of very interested in surface pattern and texture. I feel like people want to touch these, and unfortunately this is not really the place where you touch work, but I have got this little one if anyone wants to have a wee feel of it. So if you want to pass it around, it's not one of the really blobby ones, but so with some of the glazes and some of the pieces, you can kind of see that I've got some that look a bit more natural looking. I've been trying, like especially on these ones here, I've been trying to sort of recreate more natural looking rocks, kind of surface patterns and textures on them. And then other ones that are the super bright colored ones, I'm just attracted to very bright colors, and I love yellow, as you might have noticed. I wasn't even going to wear this dress tonight, but then right at the last minute, I was like, okay, I have to wear the dress. So yeah, that, I feel like that's probably all I was going to say. But if you have any questions. Sometimes if I feel like they haven't really turned out exactly how I envisioned them, I might start adding, like there's one and it's, I named it Overload because, and you can probably tell which one it is on here. It just, I've fired it many times and keep on adding, and after this show I may end up firing it again and adding more on. But yeah, so it's a lot of experimentation and getting excited about the magic of ceramics. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so basically I usually start with a base. I roll out a slab for a base, and then I'll start coiling up. Sometimes it will go, like sometimes it doesn't go the way I wanted at all. But the really good tool, one that I really like using, is like a paddle kind of thing. So I just kind of do a bit of paddling, just to knock it into shape. Usually that has to happen once it's dried a little bit. To start with, when the clay, it has to be really soft clay when you're doing the coiling, and then as it hardens I can sort of shape it a little bit more. But then I also scrape down the surfaces once they're a little bit harder. Yeah. Yeah, thanks to everyone for being here.